Welcome back to another episode of the Overland Podcast. I'm your host, Benji. Happy Thursday to everyone out there in listening land. Hope you guys recovered from Thanksgiving. In-house today, I've got Mr. Kris Carroll from Fast Rack Overland. Mr. Kris, how are you?
Doing fine, sir. How are you doing this evening?
Man, I love your studio. It looks way better than mine. It's fantastic.
Well, I spend a lot of time in here editing videos, so I wanted to look all homey.
Well, that's the thing.
Nice.
Let's talk. Let's get this all out of the way and just we're gonna butcher the whole flow of how do you say that? We're gonna talk about Kris in different chronological orders. Okay, so we're gonna start somewhere down towards the end, and then we're gonna come all the way back. If that makes sense.
Let's do this. Let's do it.
Okay, so Kris, he has a YouTube channel, Fast Rack Overland.
A little bit.
Okay, I really want, while it's still on the tip of my tongue, we're talking about your studio, your home studio. Well, obviously he has a YouTube channel, so he spends hours editing and stuff like that. So I've talked to a few other YouTubers, and as far as creativity goes in the editing room, I see a lot of them kind of decked out like yours. You know, there's a lot of influences around you. You've got a good flow. Can you tell us just briefly about that?
No, not a chance. We can't talk about that. It's my secret. I don't want. No, it's fine, man. No, it's just when you're doing that kind of stuff and you're being creative, you just want a nice, relaxing space, something that you're comfortable in, and that's what I've done here. I've just made a nice, relaxing, comfortable space because I come in here. I do all my edits in one evening. So I basically come in here at 6:30 in the evening, and then by the time I go to bed, I'm done. That's it. One evening.
That's crazy.
And I'm done editing.
How many hours do you think of footage you go through on average that you're editing? Just going through and just picking what you're wanting to use.
Yeah. So
like on an SD card, like how big is the SD card? Is it like a 64 gigabyte or something like that? And you could, how many cards you got? How many stuff you going through? That seems like a lot to take in for one night.
It's really not that bad because when I'm out filming, I think of everything I'm doing. I'm like, I try to think of what the video is going to look like, what I need to film, and I can film everything on a 64 gig card, no problem. And then I have a 32, I think, in the drone, and I usually use 2 batteries in the drone. That's it. So
that's really.
I don't want to get a lot.
Well, what's crazy, and let's just stay on it. You're a YouTuber. Let's just stay on this since we're having a good time with it.
Let's get it. Okay.
So you film all your stuff strategically for multiple reasons. You want it to flow. You want the storyline to be there. And then also it helps with your editing. So whenever you go back, you're like, I don't have to dig for, this shot or whatever. So when did you decide or discover that worked for you, doing it that way? Or did you always
pretty much right? I've always done it that way. So I made one video with my son, and I think that was like 3 years ago. And boy, we didn't know anything, man. I was using iMovie and didn't know anything about it. We just had a GoPro, and I was like, man, let's just make a YouTube video. Let's just do something. So we went out and went camping, did all that stuff, filmed everything. We got back to the studio, and me and him were trying to edit, the video together. Which, that's 2 people trying to edit a video is rough.
Right.
So after that, I didn't film again for a year. It was just like, And then I got the bug again. And basically, the way I've been doing it's the same the whole way through. The only thing that's really changed is I have gotten faster at editing. Before, it would take me... it would take me 3 or 4 days to edit a video. I think one of my bigger changes too, though, is when I met Jacob and with Eagles Overlanding, and I was always using a GoPro, and he was to be like, man, you got this camera, use this camera. Because I had a Canon M50 then, but I never used it. I was scared of it. I didn't know how to use it. I was like, it's scary. It's all these buttons. I don't know what they do.
Right.
Well, he wasn't having it. He was like, you're getting away from the GoPro. So basically taught me how to use my camera. And once I saw the quality difference and people actually commenting on my videos going, man, that camera it looks so much better. Well, then it was over. And,
that's awesome.
Of course, with with progression, you just keep going, you keep pushing yourself, you keep learning. I've watched tons and tons of YouTube videos because I'm kind of into the cinematic thing right now. I really like for my stuff to be real cinematic. And I know when I first started with YouTube, I was a little bit of a talker. I talked a lot. I was more, vlogging than,
Right.
but as like anything, as you progress, you start fine tuning everything, figure out what you like. And I like to do the cinematic stuff, man. Plus I don't have to talk as much, so.
Sure. I've noticed that in the last,
good.
I've noticed that change within your style probably in the last year, not even that long. Do you think that has a lot to do with like wanting to push yourself, or are you looking at just seeing what you're capable of doing, or do you try to do it to chase a different audience over on YouTube world because the algorithms change constantly and, keep it fresh and relative?
One of the things that I really don't do is chase an audience. I put out what I like, and either they like it or they don't. I'm not doing YouTube for. Honestly, I'm just doing it for fun because I'm losing money. By the time I go out and gas and this and everything, I'm losing money. I'm definitely not making enough money to do all this every weekend. But the main reason I do it is to be creative because, I work at California Customs. I've built hot rods and bag trucks and stuff like that. I've done that for years, and I really love being creative. So the YouTube thing has allowed me to be creative, but without welding and grinding and lifting heavy things. So I think that's what it is. It just kind of replaced my creativity zone of where it used to be in the vehicles and hot rods and stuff like that. Well, now it's in filming, and it's something new to me. And that's another thing I like is learning new things and pushing my abilities and seeing what I can do. And of course, you start out with a GoPro, and now I got a Canon R with more lenses than a man needs, and all the filters and mics and all the, and I've heard people say, it's not the equipment. And I get what they're saying, because if you're not good at telling the story or putting it together, it doesn't matter what kind of equipment that you have. But as you get better, you definitely need the equipment because it makes a big difference.
That's true with a lot of things, because like I come from a musical background. There's really low end guitars and there's like high end guitars, and you could be a really crappy player,
absolutely,
and play on a nice guitar, and it's still gonna suck. So it's like, once you hone that craft, or what you're doing, by all means treat yourself, per se, because I think the human creativity outlet for some. There's obviously, we all got different spices in us, but I think for the creativity outlets, we often need change with that. So if you're doing, the welding and the fabbing part of, grunt, sweat, blood, tears kind of work, and then you go over to a more gentle approach to a different style, it's you're not getting 100% dirty and sweaty and all that stuff. I mean, you are, but it's a different kind. And it's a different journey, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. Would you say anything similar to your life with that?
I mean, I can definitely, I can see that. I mean, I've I've had definitely different journeys in my life as well, because a lot of people, I can't believe a lot of people don't ask me what's Fast Rack. Nobody in the Overland community has ever asked me what's Fast Rack. Everybody just kind of goes with it,
Yeah.
So that's
I almost cut you off, but let's get into that. Where does Fast Rack come from?
So so back in the day, I was quite plump like I am right now. And my brother was always on me. He's like, "Hey man, you need to get your weight under control. You need to get your weight under control." Well, back in the day, I used to ride mountain bikes with my brother. We actually raced mountain bikes. And at that time, he was getting away from motocross because he got tired of being hauled off in the meat wagon. So he was getting back into mountain biking. So that I was like, you know what? You're right. So I bought a mountain bike, and I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start riding again. And of course, being a fabricator and also being cheap, there was no way I was paying $400 or $500 for a bike rack. I'm looking around. I have a plasma table. I have metal. I got plenty of stuff. So I just made one. And we liked it so much, we thought, you know what? We should push these things and try to sell them. And of course, we're standing there. And we're like, well, what are we going to call this? And my brother was like, well, it's really fast to load your bike up, and it's a rack. How about Fast Rack? And I'm like, good for me. That'll work. Yeah. So the name Fast Rack actually comes from a bicycle rack that we had made. Oh gosh, I guess that's been 6-7 years ago now.
Wow. Cool.
And so then once we started that and I got into mountain biking, like anything else in my life, when I get into it, I go all the way, man. So I started racing again, started winning, really getting into it. And I started riding up Northwest Arkansas and all that and seeing all these little neat features and stuff that they had at their bike parks up there. So I thought, you know what? We need some of those here in Fort Smith. We don't have anything like that. So I built some. I just made them. Again, being a fabricator, I just made them. I went up there, looked at them, took some measurements and stuff, and was like, I can make these. So I made some, put them here in Fort Smith. Started, as I'm growing more and more in the cycling industry, knowing, running into more people, meeting people. Got to be friends with some guys with Ozark off-road cyclists. And they came down and rode Fort Smith with us, and they're like, who made these features? And I was like, oh, I did. And they're like, you should make a business out of this. And I'm like, I don't know any contacts or anything. They're like, can you really make these? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, well, we'll get you a job. So they did. They got with the Walton Foundation, and they had some projects going on. They needed some bike ramps. And next thing you know, boom, we have Fast Rack, modern cycling solution. And I'm designing bicycle skill courses, and we're doing bike parks, and we got them all over the nation now.
That's
as a matter
wild,
of fact,
man.
I actually just sold a bike park to Harrison, Arkansas. They bought some of our features. So yeah,
that's so cool.
COVID kind of killed the business, and we kind of disappeared for a while. And then we got a call not too long ago that said, hey, y'all still around? I'm like, well, I mean, we kind of are, but we kind of shut the business down. And he's like, well, would you be interested in building some features? And I'm like, well, let's bring it back. So we did. And,
yeah. Sweet.
And here we are now. So, full-time day job, YouTuber, Fast Rack Modern Cycling Solutions owner. And, of course, there's another thing in the works, and that would be Overland of America Expo. So
yeah,
that's
let's,
new thing.
You want to touch on that?
Yeah. So, I was telling you earlier, I was into the hot rod scene, and, I'd built numerous vehicles that we had taken to the SEMA show. You couldn't pick up like a mini truck in Street Trucks or a hot rod magazine. We were in one of those almost every month. So we were staying pretty busy. And during this whole process, I was doing a lot of this with a friend of mine. His name's Robbie, and he owns Keg Media. And so I was working with him. We built a truck, actually my truck. It was an S10 called the Smoothster. And that truck is probably one of the most famous S10 pickup trucks in the world. I mean, it's out there. It's been 13 years ago, and it's out there winning awards still to this day. That's just crazy. It's crazy. So anyway, I've known Robbie for a long time, and as I was working at California Customs, he was taking his business to the next level, and he started promoting shows. And then he's got Lifted Truck Nationals. He's got Orange Beach Invasion. He recently got into music producing, and they do Tailgate and Tall Boys music festivals. And I hit him up. I said, hey, Robbie, I said, would you be interested in doing an Overland show, maybe an Overland Expo? And he actually said, you know what? You hit me at a good time, because I was thinking about doing a Jeep show. And I was like, well, do an Overland Expo. I mean, a lot of people are Jeeps. So next thing you know, just after talking about it, well, here we are. I mean, it's a done deal now. It's actually going to happen. So, yes, sir. And
go ahead and give out the dates.
So the dates will be September 13th, 14th, and 15th. And it'll be in Jay, Oklahoma. And that's the other thing. So Robbie, he was like, well, where do you want to do this at? And I'm like, well, I don't really know. I've got a couple ideas. He's like, well, hey, I'm having lifted truck nationals this week. Or this weekend? Won't you come up and check out this place? So I did. And it was at Mid-America Outdoors is where he has lifted truck nationals. And dude, that place is amazing. As soon as I showed up and started looking around, I was like, oh, this is a perfect place. There's no other place. No other expos that's got anything like this. I mean, we're talking 2 swimming pools, a lazy river, a splash pad, a restaurant, a gourmet coffee. It's got shower facilities, a free laundromat. It's got 1,600 acres of private trails all over it. I mean, this place is just, it's got 2 bars. It's what is it? 75 cabins, 400 RV hookups. I mean, this place is amazing, man. So it's also where they shoot Nitro Circus. So Travis Pastrana designed the race course out there. He's actually got a house there when he comes in, and he'll stay on the property. But yeah, this place is amazing. Well, and I guess cool. I can tell you. So the owner and what Mid-America Outdoors is about is basically racing. So they race side-by-sides and four-wheelers and trophy trucks, all that stuff. And the track out there, Travis Pastrana wanted to build this track and nobody would let him. And then he talked to the owner of Mid-America and they were like, let's do this. And of course now it's a big hit. It's a huge hit.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, that's pretty
absolutely
sweet.
Amazing place, man. Yeah. And man, on those 1,600 acres, it's kind of,
no, go ahead. I was going to say, you're busy. Go ahead though.
Yeah. Definitely. I knew that's what you were going to say. Absolutely. But no, that, I was going to say that those 1,600 acres out there with all the different trails and stuff, a lot of those trails are side-by-side trails. But I actually went out there in my truck and did a bunch of those trails. Of course, you know, me being a 2-wheel drive, if I can get through them, I know these guys with their 4x4s can go out here and have a good time. There was a lot of stuff like some of the hill climbs.
You know the Jeep stuff. Guys can make it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Did you just hit on my Toyota? Is that what you did?
A little bit. No.
But
keep talking. Yeah, keep going. I've got some camera issues on my end.
Oh, I thought I seen some flashing back there in the background. So
it's definitely not Tans lights.
But yeah, man, looking forward to the expo. We're definitely already signing people up for it, so I'm excited about that. Very excited.
That's fun.
Yeah, so, between the expo and everything else, I do definitely stay pretty busy.
So we're still all over the storyboard here of Mr. Kris. Let's go back to how did you transition from the car world kind of going into this overlanding world?
Oh, man. I think what it was with the whole hot rod scene and the lowrider scene and all that, I'd been doing it for years. I don't know if you know anything about the SEMA show in Las Vegas, but I mean, it seems like every time you build a vehicle for the SEMA show, it's always last minute because you're dealing with sponsors and stuff like that. And I think the stress of doing that after so many years, one day I was just like, I'm done. You know, I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. And then that's when I got into the cycling that we were talking about earlier. And I raced and did Fast Rack Motor and Cycling Solutions. That was like a 5-year period of my life right there. And during that process, we were doing a lot of camping because we would show up at the races a day early and camp instead of getting up and driving 3 or 4 hours to race. You know, you'd be wore out when you get there. So we would just go the day before and camp. So that's kind of, at that point, I'd bought a truck just to, you know, haul around the bikes and stuff like that. And being that I work at California Customs, I started looking into things. And I really didn't even know what Overland was or it even existed. And so I got online and started looking at things on Instagram. And I'm like, what's this Overland stuff? I was like, I dig these tents on top of these trucks, man. These trucks look tough. And there was no turning back after that. It was just, I'd buy one thing and then buy something else and next thing and another thing. And now my truck looks like it does. So, yeah. And so on top of that, it's fixing to get a complete makeover, man. It's getting a new wrap, a new camper, just new wheels, new tires, new all kinds of stuff, man. So
that's pretty cool. I was going to ask you about, I was like, your truck's pretty much done. You know, I mean, like not done, but there's a lot done that you could do to a truck, especially newer model. You got a long travel. You've got, what is it? The pre-runner flares, the fenders, whatever. You want to go through the whole kind of deal that you've done to it? I mean, it's probably a long list.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, you said long travel. It doesn't have the long travel on it yet. I do have the Elka suspension on it, but it's basically stock A-arms. Well, no, I have.
Man, it looked like it from one of those shots you posted on Instagram or something one day. It looked like it. I was like, that's pretty sick.
It's those fiberglass fenders, man.
Yeah, those are sick.
With the fiberglass fenders, and I put 2-inch wheel spacers on it. With the offset of the wheels and everything, it does look really wide, and that's what I was going for because I like that look. And I knew that I was going to do the long travel. I knew that was coming. I've always wanted to do it, and it's almost that time. It's almost that time for sure.
Nice.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, I have a rear seat delete that I built myself. So I have my cooler and everything in my back seat and storage there. I have an overhead console area above that too that I built to have storage above the cooler and stuff. I thought, that's a wasted space up there, and it gave me, I don't know, about 6 inches or so. I can cram stuff up there. So I did that. Then I have the deck system, the dual swing out on the rear, and I added a place, to cook, to fold down like most dual swings have. And I got a Pelican case back there in the back. It's got my spice rack and all my stuff for cooking. Because that's another thing. If you're an overlander, you're going to have to learn how to cook. That's just part of the gig, man.
This is where we'll have to dive into this. Let's just cut to it now. Let's cut into campsite cooking segment, and we'll put a pause here, and we'll come back to the truck.
And that's the thing, because when I started becoming an overlander, the only thing I was known for around the house for cooking was grilled cheese. I could cook a mean grilled cheese.
This gives me hope because I'm about to learn something tonight, folks. I'm going to learn how to do a decent meal around camp. It can be done because your stuff looks fancy, sir, and you've got the tools that make it look like you know what you're doing. Are those just props? Are those stage props? Or do you get down in dangerous
getting good there? No, it was one of those. It's one of those things, just like with filming anything else, man. If you're going to get into something, you might as well go all the way and just learn it, And like I said, the only thing I was good at was grilled cheese. And I think I started real easy, like tacos, you brown some ground beef, And then one day I was like, dude, I want to do some salmon tacos. And really the only thing I do, it's not that hard. I just get online and I search recipes. And I go to the grocery store, I'll buy the list, and then I'll do the screenshots of the recipe because, when we get out there, we ain't got no service. And I just follow the instructions. That's it. That's all I do,
Do you want to know?
Sometimes they're hits.
Here's what? You want to know what one of my latest trip meal preps were? I went to McDonald's on the way to camp because I was protesting pulling over to a store. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to order 2, extra cheeseburgers, and I'm going to order a 20-pack of the McNuggets.
I tell you what, that was coming.
I heated up that burger for breakfast one morning. I put it in aluminum foil and put it on my stove. That was the best burger I've ever had. And then I tried it with the chicken nuggets, and those things were disgusting. But I experimented with it because you can go to McDonald's, get some food for that, but that was disgusting. I was like relying on everybody else to carry me through the weekend.
But, yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those things. It kind of goes with YouTube as well. It's part of the, and I know there's some guys out there that are just like, man, I don't want to see a food scene. I'm like, but that's overlanding. That's what we do. We do trails. We get to camp. We make a fire. We cook and we sit around the fire and eat. That's what we do. So cooking is a big part of it. And so I use that in my videos as, to show people, if you go out and you're doing this, you can eat good stuff, you can eat some fancy stuff, As a matter of fact, that video that I was with Patrick, which by the way, he's one of the partners of Overland of America Expo. so it was the lake video, and he's like, man, I'm going to cook you something. You're always cooking me something. And he bought the bone-in ribeye, and man, those things were gigantic.
It looked good.
Oh, it was so good, man. He killed it. I mean, he killed it. Cooked on over the open fire and the cast iron
That's hard.
skillet, and
That's hard to do.
Yeah,
Sometimes you could run a steak real quick doing that, but that's
he
impressive.
nailed it, man. Absolutely nailed it. So, but it was so beautiful, that whole scene of shooting that, man. I mean, it made the video, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. Cooking's a big part of it. At least it is for me. So
Yeah. So for me, I like going with people that attempt to try to cook or that are actually good cooks, because if it's just me, I'm honestly, you know, if I could survive that evening till the next morning and get some bacon or whatever, then I'll be good for the day. But you know, going with people that actually give a crap about trying to produce a good meal at camp, I love those guys and girls. My wife likes to cook at camp. Given the right tools and equipment, you know, she could do a pretty darn good meal, which, you know, everybody else can too. So it's fun also sharing meals, you know, as we go to camp.
Absolutely.
You know, there's no need to fire up 6 different Coleman stoves or Blackstones or whatever. And even if a large group on bigger trips, you know, each family or whoever has a responsibility that night, so the other people can relax.
Yeah.
That's another trade-off. So
and that's one of my things too. I with Jacob, when he was teaching me how to use the camera and all that, I would always tell him, I'd be like, man, I'll cook for you if you'll film while I'm cooking. You know, so it was kind of a trade-off there for a while with him as well. And he was all for it. He's like, all right, because he knew I'd always come up with some good food. So
I wonder if that's the deal Baker makes with him also, because every time we're at camp and Caleb's cooking or eating or something, Jacob's over there at the camera. Could very well be.
Yeah. Very well. He knows how to get his food.
That's right.
He's got it down. That's for sure.
So what's your favorite part of like Arkansas? Do you like the Ozarks or the Ouachitas or a little bit of both? Because you're two-wheel drive.
Like a little. Yep.
And we can talk on that too also, but let's see what kind of trails you like first.
So as far as trails and stuff like that, I definitely like the Ozarks. The Ozarks for trails are definitely the best. The prettiest part of Arkansas, in my opinion, is the Albert Pike area and the Ouachitas. You go south of Mena down in that area around the Albert Pike, and it is just gorgeous, man. I like all of the streams down there. They're just crystal clear, and you know, it could be 100 degrees out and those things are still freezing cold. So it's I don't know. It's just my favorite spot to go.
I have never been to the Ouachitas ever.
Really?
Because the Ozarks from my front door is about 5 hours, 6 hours in a good spot, about 5 hours pretty much centered.
Yeah.
So if I was to drive another 3 to 5 hours, you know, that's a long trip. And I don't go out for long periods of time. You know, if I'm lucky, I could go out for 5 days. But typically they're just long weekends, whatever I can get in.
Yeah.
But I'm
same here.
Attempting to do at least a longer trip, probably this spring. It'll probably be in the Ouachitas just to explore it because it looks gorgeous. You know, big pines and then the huge mountains, and it's just gorgeous looking. So I'd like to experience that. Not necessarily for the trail, you know, roughness, because I understand there's a couple out there that are kind of difficult, but for the most part, they're all fairly well maintained.
The trails are definitely different in the Ouachitas. Absolutely. They're more 2-wheel drive friendly, but that's, again, I don't let that 2-wheel drive hold me back. I think the craziest trails that I've ever done is I went out with Mo. He took me out, and of course it was with a group of guys. I think J.O. was there, and there was a couple other guys. Can't remember your names right now. Sorry, guys. But absolutely crazy day of doing trails. The first time that Mo had ever gotten his 4Runner stuck. So if that tells you anything of the type of trails we were doing, and I kept reminding them, I was like, hey guys, you do remember I'm 2-wheel drive, right? Because I'm looking at these trails and I'm just like, there's no way. Put it this way, I went out on the intent of making a video, and I was just so like scared for my
Concerned with
life,
just
to be
making
honest
out
with
of
you.
there.
Yeah, concerned. I didn't even film. And then that's when the guys, they even commented, they're like, we know you're messed up. You're not even filming. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just concentrating on hanging onto the steering wheel, which really, honestly, the truck did fine. I mean, we had one little spot where I almost slid off the side of the mountain, but things like that happen. So
let's talk about
survived
this.
the night.
Why'd you pick 2-wheel drive over 4-wheel drive, or did it just happen that you had the truck and then you got into overlanding?
That was it. If you remember, I bought the truck because I was a mountain biker and I just needed something to haul my bikes around. That was it.
Okay.
And I never looked at these other overland trucks and said, I'm building this. That never happened that way. It was like, well, I want to put a tent on there, so I need a rack. And honestly, I didn't even buy a rack. I made my first rack and put the tent on there. And it just, you know how it is, man. Then you're like, well, I don't really use my back seat, and I'm really tired of buying ice all the time. I need one of these coolers. And then, you have a cooler, then you can start cooking better. Well, I need a deck system because I need to haul all of my, cooking utensils, and it just never stops, man. And the next thing I know, I'm like, I have a 2-wheel drive and I have all this stuff on it. But I mean, you can ask some of these guys I go out with. I mean, Jacob. I mean, he's
sure,
2-wheel drive as well. And we do not
I think a
let
lot
it
of
hold us back.
No, I think a lot of it's just what we've all been used to seeing, you got to have a 4-wheel drive. You got to have 35s. No, you don't. Most people in foreign countries go off-roading in cars. I mean, because they have to. So,
yeah. So do I use,
I'm just curious.
Do I use my winch?
Yes.
No, and it's one of those things where it's like, do I use my winch? Absolutely. Do I have to have a little tug here once in a while? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I still get through a lot of obstacles where people are just like, I don't know how you made it. And I'm like, well, you're doing 5 miles an hour. I do about 8 miles an hour. I have to have a little momentum going.
I will say this, though, about you guys, and by you guys, I mean the 2-wheel drive guys. I think it will, like, for Jacobs, because I've wheeled with him. I feel like once he's going to get a 4-wheel drive one day, and I think once he does, it's going to make him 10 times better driver. You're picking the lines really hard right now. You're picking, the throttle, what you're doing to it. There's all sorts of things that's going through his brain. Yes, it's kind of challenging at points and times, but he's not letting that get him down. And he likes to brag about it. He loves going out in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas, and saying, look what I got. Look where I'm at with my 2-wheel drive, So I think it's pretty cool. Good bragging rights.
And he does enjoy doing the trails more than I do. I mean, I enjoy them, don't get me wrong. But I'm mainly about getting to the campsite and just having a good time at camp. I really like that. But there's times where I'm like, I think we should go do a trail. But it's not like every time I go out, I don't have to do a trail. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. And that's a good thing that you brought that up, because a lot of people, we're all, we all got our different preferences on what we do. Some people like really hard trails. Some people like gravel roads and all that stuff. But I think for all of us, I think we all agree, we want to escape from today's society. We want to be out in the kind of the wilderness, and then away from people, obviously. But to do that, you got to get, go down certain trails and stuff to get there. But, and that's another thing. I typically wheel all day. And then if we show up to camp, either it's getting dark quick or we've got a couple hours. So it's one of the two, but that's the earliest. This past July, I really did my first kind of trip where we just hung out in the same location for 2 days. Yeah. And it almost drove me nuts. But again, it was relaxing. It was relaxing at the same time. And you don't realize how, and even then, you driving around all day on a trail, getting in and out, taking pictures, video, whatever, that wears you out. And then plus the mental aspect of, trying not to flip your rig or whatever. But all that weighs a toll on you. But you get a totally opposite whenever you're just binging at camp. It's a different, they're both relaxing to me in a weird sense, but One's just
It
different.
seems like, and it's funny because we're all like, we go out and we relax and chill, and we do, and I do as well. But when you're filming everything, it's everything takes, like coffee that normally takes 5 to 10 minutes now takes an hour. It drags everything out. But again, I enjoy the creative process, so it's not a problem with me. But it seems like I still stay pretty busy because I love cutting up my own firewood. I like finding, down trees and cutting them up and getting the axe out and doing all that. That's part of the whole experience for me. So between that and just cooking and cleaning dishes and this and that, it seems like I stay pretty busy, even if we are just hanging out. It seems like the only time that we actually just like can sit down and just breathe and really enjoy it is always at night around the campfire. And
there's something about it.
That is chill time for sure. The cameras go away. We all sit around the campfire and just, that's the relaxing time right there.
That's
in the morning.
Best part, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, that's the best part about, especially going out with buddies and stuff, is, sharing the stories around the campfire. And we've got a rule, what goes on at camp or not goes on, but whatever said at camp stays at camp. So if you really need to get something off your chest, you could say it.
That's it.
In a quote unquote, not goofy way, safe place. So it's a safe place. But anyway, talking about we like talking about all sorts of weird stuff, get your mind jogging and stuff like that. It's always a good time. And then there's nothing better than a nice fire in the morning too, on those crisp mornings. Oh, nothing better. That's the best.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. And that's actually kind of how Overland of America Expo kind of came about. Was a camping trip that me and Patrick were on. And I was like, hey man, I got an idea. And I ran everything by Patrick just to talk to somebody else about it, to see if I was just crazy or if it's something, I wanted someone else's opinion. And that was one of those campfire moments that no cameras, just me and Patrick talking it out. And he was like, man, I think you should reach out to your buddy and see if he'd be interested. And I told him, I said, well, if I reach out to him and he's interested, I know that's the direction that God wants me to go. So I'll go that direction. If I hit him up and he says, well, I ain't really got time, then I'll know that I'm barking up the wrong tree and just go somewhere else. But
so how long ago was this?
Oh man. Everything kind of moved
this past year.
Oh yeah. It moved kind of quick. I talked to Patrick and then I kind of wimped out for probably a month or so before I talked to Robbie. And he actually contacted me for something, and I thought, well, this is a sign right here. I have to say something, and that's when I brought it up. And he was like, well, yeah, cool. So, but this was dreamed up pretty quick because his show, Lifted Truck Nationals. So I talked to him, and it was like the next week he was like, hey, come to my show. And his show is actually 1 week before Overland of America. So it's in September. I think it's, what is that, Labor Day? It's the first weekend after Labor Day, I think is what it is. So yeah, that's kind of from there to where we're at now. That's how quick we kind of rolled on everything. So
that's a conflict of interest for me. What's a conflict of interest for me because where we're from, that's called Railroad Days, is that weekend. I just looked. You're competing with Crocker Railroad Days, man.
Railroad Days.
So there's in my town, which is my wife's town, there's a railroad that goes right through town. And it's a small town. I'm talking population 1,000. And anyway, so it's every second. Well, it used to be Labor Day, and now it's the second weekend of September, and they call it Railroad Days.
Okay,
it's real small, little car shows and stuff like that. It's a good time though. But
I tell you what, when you set a date on something like that, and you're the new guy, you find out real quick all the other different shows and things that are going on.
Guaranteed, I bet.
Yeah, there is
no such thing as a perfect date. There's no such thing as a perfect date.
Yeah, there's so
Everybody
many different things going on.
You just got to throw a dart and see if it hits. But
yeah, we know this show's going to do really well because, you know, like I say, the venue is amazing. It is crazy amazing, and we're going to get out there and get some videos and stuff and show people, you know, what they can look forward to. But one of the other things we're going to offer is like they actually have a Barbie Jeep downhill course there. I mean, it's a legit downhill Barbie Jeep course, big sign, all that. And we're going to do that. So we're going to kind of change things up and have experiences for people to do. We want to give them a reason to stick around and hang out and have fun. So I don't want to give everything away right now, but we're still working on a lot of different things. But the Barbie Jeep is one of them. We're going to have like a My Little Pony race. It's those hoverboards, and they've got these horses attached to them, and they have these wheels that roll around on the back. Well, we have this area. Yeah.
That's funny.
And we have this area, and it has a big water fountain. Okay. And the concrete around the water fountain is that real slick concrete. So as they're racing around this thing, they're going to be sliding all around. So, nice. I mean, that's just Goofy some of the things we're going to be doing. Yeah, absolutely, man.
You got to be entertaining, man. Like that's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Yeah. So, and, you know, everybody does the vendor appreciation party. That's kind of a given, but we're actually going to do that, but we're also going to do a camper appreciation party because we don't want them to feel left out. You know, we want to give them something to do as well. So when we do that, the camper appreciation, it's actually going to be at the pools. So it's going to be like a pool party. We'll probably have like a belly flop contest or something. And we're going to do giveaways. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun. It's going to be different, man, for sure. Yeah.
That's fun. So let's jump around again with this timeline of mysteriousness. I don't even know. Yeah. Let's. So your wife, she goes on some trips with you? Does she enjoy it?
She really does. I said that weird, didn't I? She really does. But no, she enjoys the trips as long as it's cool weather. Summertime, I can get her out on day trips, and that's it. She's like, I'm not going camping. Yeah, I'm not sweating.
Too dang muggy,
what she tells me. Dude, Arkansas, I absolutely love Arkansas. From what would we say? I'd say from fall to spring, it's perfect. But summer here, it's just miserable. Let's be honest.
You can't do nothing with it. And then especially lately, there's been droughts there in August and September, so there's no water. So you can't go out and recreate in the water. So
you can go out and sweat. That's what you can do. You can. Well, if you like sweating, Arkansas in the summer is your place, man. This is it.
Yeah.
The humidity is so bad. As soon as you open up your front door to go outside, it just punches you in the face. You know,
it does.
Hey, humidity's here. Wham! So it's bad.
Let's give 5 seconds of praise to diesel heaters for opening up that extra 5 months of camping. Those things are insane, man. And I thought last year was the year of diesel heater posts. It's this year.
No,
and it's really not that cold yet.
No, I've already used mine several times.
Same.
I'll use my diesel heater, and half of my windows are zipped halfway.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's so comfortable with the diesel heater. It's just so nice.
It's like,
and, you know,
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, for the longest time when I was camping with Jacob, we were anti-diesel heater. We were anti-heater. We were just like, we're the tough guys. We're going to sleep in our sleeping bags. And you wake up in the morning and you breathe out and you see your breath, and it's like, this is ridiculous. This is just, you know, you wake up and you're instantly cold. You don't even get warmed up until you get a fire built that morning. And finally, I was just like, you know what? I'm getting a diesel heter, man. I'm doing it. I'm breaking down. I'm getting a diesel heater.
Yeah,
and,
that's like
the first 3 diesel heaters.
Yeah. I don't know if there's lag on my end or what. You can't even see me. I'm throwing my hands up. Go ahead.
There we go. I'll do it.
There we go.
I was going to say, so I bought 3 diesel heaters, and none of them worked. The first one didn't work. The second one didn't work. The third one didn't work. And
Why?
I was about to give up on diesel heaters. They all
Why
had
did
their
they
own
not work?
individual problems. So the first
Are
one.
you serious? Okay.
Yeah, no. So the first one I ordered, okay. The screen thing,
Yes.
it wouldn't, it didn't give you anything. It was just a black, that was it. You could hit the button and turn it on, okay? And it would turn on, but you had no settings on the screen. It wouldn't change anything, nothing.
That's
so
frustrating.
I was like, well, I couldn't change the frequency or the temperature, nothing. So I was like, all right. So I sent it back and they gave me another one just like it. And it did the exact same thing. The exact same thing. And I thought it was me. So I'm watching all these YouTube videos trying to figure it out. I'm like, no, it's the heater. So then I ordered another heater, a whole different style, different brand and everything. And I get that thing in. And it's one of those tall, skinny, red, Amazon ones. It's the tall one. And what was the deal with it? I think it would. Nope, that's the one that kept throwing the codes. It just kept throwing. I can't remember what code it was. It was fuel. It was the fuel. I think I narrowed it down to the fuel pump on that one. And I'm like, I'm looking at the cost of a fuel pump and what I'd paid for the unit, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to do it. I'm over it. So I called Amazon and I said, I need a refund on this thing, blah, 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 explained it to them. And they were like, we'll just refund you. Don't worry about sending it back. So I didn't even have to send that one back.
Nice.
I think they already knew it was garbage.
That's too bad.
So anyway, so then I finally started asking around. I'm like, hey, what's a good one? What's a good one? And I listened to everybody and I bought this one, and now I've used it for 2 years. I've not had one single issue out of it. Last year when I quit using it, I literally just threw it in the garage, didn't think nothing of it. And when I used it for the first time this year, I literally just grabbed it out of there. It already had some fuel in it. I added more to it. It never missed a lick, man. It fired right up and it works perfect.
What brand is that one?
I said, starts with a V, Vivor or whatever it is.
Vivor. That seems to be the popular one because that's the one I've got. Yeah. And same with you. This is my third season with it, and I just grabbed it the other day, and it's killer. I had to change out the fuel lines because I used the green clear ones that they came with. They cracked, of course. So I got some fuel lines, and that's it. I mean, it's perfect.
So I've got the shorter one now, where the fuel tank's off to the side with it. And I custom made a bracket for the exhaust and the air intake and all that, because that's what I do. I don't leave anything alone. No matter what I get, I'm customizing it, just like my camera with the cage and all the cool things you can add to it. I love customizing. So I did that with my diesel heater, and I have had people ask me, they're like, well, don't you have problems because your exhaust comes straight out like that? I'm like, no, I kind of cut it and messed around with it and modified it, but I've never had an issue with it. But my exhaust is mounted to the side of mine. It's actually pretty neat. I've had other people look at it and go, I got to do that.
The first time I ever used a diesel heater, I took one of those carbon monoxide detectors with me, and I slept with it in my tent because I didn't know what to expect. This was kind of back when they were like, don't buy the Chinese, they're all junk. I'm like, dude, it's like $100.
Burn to death.
So I'm like, after the first hour or two of not sleeping because I was paranoid, I slept fine. And, I left all the windows kind of unzipped a little bit, but I survived. So people out there, they're legit.
No, they're awesome, man. Absolutely. And that was the same thing with the wife. She wouldn't go when it was really hot, but she didn't really like going when it was really cold either. Well, now I've got the diesel heater, and I actually had someone ask in the other video, they're like, why do you have the rooftop tent and the Gazelle? Why do you have both? And I had to explain to him, I'm like, that's our home, the Gazelle is, because we'll put the diesel heater in that thing, and you get up early in the morning or whatever, you don't feel like making a fire. I've literally made coffee inside that Gazelle and filmed it, So I love having that Gazelle there kind of as the hub. And works out good.
Those, sometimes those are really good tents too. I mean, they're fantastic. They're
amazing.
Bulletproof, man.
Love them. Yeah,
And
absolutely
I'm
amazing.
6'6", and they're really roomy.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's the last trip I just went on with the wife. She actually slept in the Gazelle, and I slept in the tent. And I know people
That's
probably think
funny.
that's weird, but I mean, I'm kind of a big snorer. I'm a big guy, so I snore a lot. So when I told her, I was like, I really want to sleep in my tent. She was like, oh yeah, go for it. She
Nice.
was like, yeah, no, I won't have to listen to you snore. You know, because it was just, I love the rooftop tents. It's like being a kid and having tree houses. I had tree houses when I was growing up, and I
Sure.
loved them. And that's kind of
Yeah,
what it
and
reminds me of, being a kid.
that's what a lot of people say. And to be honest with you, like, we got ours because of our son. Every time we'd go
Yeah.
camping, he'd go crawl up in Jacob or Taylor's tent and pester them, and then
Yeah.
our tent came up, and I was like, let's just get it. So we did. So anyway, they are fun.
They
Dude,
really
we're
are,
coming
man.
up on an hour, man. We've been chatting this long
Wow.
already. I
It
know
went
we're gonna have to do a
quick,
part
man.
2 and
Really
3.
quick. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, man, real quick though, before we even hang up here, I want. Is there anything else we need to touch on? Just real quick. Anything we
I
missed
think
out on?
I think we're good. I mean, everybody knows I have a YouTube channel, and they can find me at Fast Rack Overland. And same with Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that. It's all the same across the board. Fast Rack Overland. You'll find me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, I appreciate
Other
your
than
time
that,
coming on here. That was fun.
absolutely, man. We'll have to do it again.
We will. I like
I'm
doing follow ups,
sure.
so we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll
man.
see you in a few months. Hopefully, see how it goes. And it was nice meeting you the other day too. We were at the backwoods. What was that? Riggs and Coffee.
Dude, was that not amazing?
That
There
was
were
crazy.
so many people at that Rigs and Coffee, man.
Yeah. How
That
many
was
rigs
really
did they
nuts.
ever give out a head count or anything, or a rig count?
I haven't heard. I should holler at Grant and ask him how many they wound up with, because I remember at first they were trying to keep everybody from passing through the gate. They were like, "Oh no, that's just for vendors," and that didn't last very long at all because they ran out of room up front super quick. But
That's crazy.
as soon as I seen that Backwoods was doing that, though, I just knew right then. I was like, "This is going to be a big one. I've got to go there." And sure enough, dude, it was unreal, unreal. Grant did a good
It
job
was
on that one.
it was fun seeing all the vintage Toyotas for me. There was like
Dude.
3 or
Yeah.
4 of the first gen trucks, the 60 series,
Yep.
all of them, all the 80 series Land Cruisers you could see. It was
Yep.
crazy. Just a good
Dude,
time.
that's if I go to a 4-wheel drive, I really, really want an older Land Cruiser, the 80 series. I absolutely love them. But I just recently found out how easy it is to actually put 4-wheel drive in my truck.
Really?
And so, yeah, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a nightmare, and everybody's like, oh, the electrical part. But if you do the FJ transfer case, it's not a big deal because it's manual. So I don't know. We'll
Like
have
an
to see what I'm up
FJ40
to.
one?
What's that?
An old mechanic, like from like an FJ40 series, 45, or are you talking about like a FJ Cruiser?
Yeah, FJ Cruiser.
The newer
They're
model.
absolutely, yeah. The manual shifts, and believe it or not, the transfer case that's in the Tacomas, it's pretty much the same thing except it's got that actuator. It's electronic. But if you actually take them and set them side by side, if you look at the one out of the Tacoma, there's a plate there where the manual shifter is in the FJ one. So
Cool.
being manual shift like that, you have no electronics. So I don't know. I have been watching some YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And we might be doing something. Plus, I work on cars. That's what I do. So doing stuff like this it's not really that.
So
it's not that strange for me.
You need to 86 the long travel, which is really cool. Just go solid axle swap.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people tell me that, but I was just like, I don't know. I still want that long travel. I want that. Have you seen what Max Powell did to his?
No, but I didn't mean to cut you off like that. But the long travels, that would be so freaking fun to drive off road. And then
Yep.
I did see Max Powell. He posted something on Instagram. I did not watch it or whatever, but go ahead and tell us about that.
Oh man. So he did the FJ transfer case. He did the same thing, but he also did the what do they call it? The taco box, which kind of re-gears everything. So it has like a crawl mode, so it's super low geared. And when I seen all of that, because not only is my
Was
truck
that like the Marlin crawler?
absolutely.
Because
Yes.
because that's what they do on their whatever Tacoma they have. That's crazy.
Yep. So that's what he did to his. And when I was watching all that, that's when I started doing all the research and was thinking about doing the taco box and all that stuff, because getting that load gear with only having a 4-cylinder, it's not a V6. It's only a 4-cylinder. Then I need all the help I can get. And I've not re-geared my truck yet either. So that's another thing I could do. I could convert it to a 4-wheel drive. I could re-gear it. I could do the taco box. And I could do lockers front and rear. And dude, I'd be bulletproof. I could go anywhere I'd want it, anywhere.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a thought. And I know people are like, why would you do that? Why would you put that much time and investment into a 4-cylinder? Why would you do that? But that's what I do. I do odd things. I just think it would add to the story of what I've already got going. This crazy guy that does these crazy trails in a 2-wheel drive. Now look what he's done. So I don't know. Anything that people, if they look at it and they're like, why would you do that? I want to do it that much more. So I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I think that's great. Dude, I appreciate you coming on the show. That's going to do it for this episode. Guys, don't forget to tune back in Monday for shenanigans. I will see you then. Bye-bye.
Adios.